Have you ever studied for hours, rereading the same pages again and again, only to wake up the next morning and feel like your mind has been wiped clean? You're not alone. Many people blame their memory, their intelligence, or their lack of discipline. But here's the strange part. In Japan, students routinely memorize more than 2,000 kanji characters, and many of them remember them for life. Even more confusing, some people feel more alert after 5 hours of sleep than after a full 8. So what's really going on? What if the problem isn't how hard you try, but the rhythm you live by? Most of us were taught the same rule: study more, sleep longer, push harder. So when information disappears from your mind, or you wake up exhausted after a long night, you assume something is wrong with you. But neuroscience tells a different story. The brain doesn't remember based on effort alone. It remembers based on timing, repetition, and recovery. In Japan, many daily habits are quietly aligned with how the brain actually works. Students often step outside into natural morning light before studying. They move their bodies lightly for just 10 minutes. Research, frequently cited by productivity experts, shows that even 10 minutes of light movement can improve recall by around 20%, simply by increasing blood flow and alertness. Before learning something new, they briefly recall what they studied yesterday. Not to reread it, but to pull it out of memory. They eat until they are about 80% full, a principle known as hara hachi bu, keeping energy stable instead of crashing. And at night, sleep is treated as part of learning, not separate from it. These habits may look small, even insignificant, but together they create a rhythm where memory forms naturally without forcing the brain to fight against itself. In Japan, the day rarely begins with rushing straight into mental work. Instead, there is a quiet transition from sleep to focus. Many students step outside shortly after waking up. They expose their eyes to natural light, take a short walk, or do a few gentle stretches. This is not exercise for fitness. It's a signal to the brain. Morning light suppresses melatonin and raises cortisol to a healthy level, telling your internal clock the day has started. When this rhythm is missing, the brain stays half asleep. You may sit at your desk, but your mind is still foggy, unfocused, and slow to encode information. That is why 10 minutes of light movement matters so much. It increases blood flow to the brain, sharpens attention, and prepares memory circuits to work. Instead of forcing yourself to concentrate, you make concentration easier. Only after this reset do many Japanese students sit down to study. And the first thing they do is not learn something new. They briefly recall what they studied the day before: a formula, a concept, a kanji character. This act of recall wakes up existing memory pathways, making the brain more receptive to new input. Even the environment plays a role. Desks are cleared. Materials are arranged. Tea is prepared slowly. These small rituals are not about aesthetics. They tell the brain that a focused state is beginning. The result is simple but powerful. When learning starts, the brain is already awake, already primed, and already expecting to remember. If you watch how many people study, you'll notice a pattern. They read, highlight, reread, and underline again. It feels productive. It feels safe. But it's also one of the fastest ways to forget. Japanese study culture quietly avoids this trap by focusing on recall, not exposure. Instead of asking, "Did I read this?" the brain is asked a harder question. "Can I remember this without looking?" This is known as active recall, and it changes how memory is built. Every time you pull information out of your mind, even imperfectly, you strengthen the neural pathway that stores it. The struggle itself is the point. To support this, many students use spaced repetition. They revisit material not continuously, but at increasing intervals. Day 1, Day 2, Day 4, Day 7. Each return happens just as the memory begins to fade. This timing forces the brain to rebuild the memory instead of letting it decay. There is also a deep cultural layer behind this method. The idea of kaizen, improving by just 1% each day, removes pressure. You don't need a perfect session. You don't need marathon study hours. You need consistency. One kanji, one paragraph, one concept refined slightly better than yesterday. Some students follow a simple rhythm: 40 minutes of focused work, followed by 10 minutes of rest. During breaks, they don't scroll endlessly. They stand up, stretch, or simply let their mind wander. And if a day goes badly, they follow one rule: never miss twice. A single failure doesn't matter. Breaking the rhythm does. Over time, this system compounds. Learning stops feeling heavy. Memory stops feeling unreliable. And studying becomes something the brain expects, not something it resists. Most people treat sleep as a pause from learning. In reality, sleep is when learning is completed. During the night, the brain moves through cycles of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Each cycle lasts about 90 minutes. Memory is not strengthened evenly across these stages. It is reorganized, sorted, and stored when the brain is allowed to finish these cycles without interruption. This explains a strange experience many people have had. You sleep 8 hours, yet wake up exhausted. Another day, you sleep only 5 or 6 hours and feel surprisingly clear. The difference is often not the number of hours, but where you wake up in the cycle. Waking in the middle of deep or REM sleep leaves the brain disoriented and slow. In Japan, sleep is often approached with respect rather than force. The goal is not maximum hours, but quality and timing. Evening routines are kept simple. Lights are dimmed. Stimulation is reduced. The mind is given a signal that it is time to shut down. Diet plays a role as well. The principle of hara, hachi, eating until you are about 80% full, prevents heavy digestion from stealing energy and disrupting sleep. A lighter body supports a clearer mind the next day. Some learners also review key points for just 10 minutes before bed, not to cram, but to gently remind the brain what matters. During sleep, these memories are replayed and reinforced automatically. When rest is aligned with learning, memory no longer feels fragile. It feels stable, as if the brain is quietly working for you, even while you sleep. At some point, technique is no longer the main barrier. Identity is. Many people approach learning with the thought, "I'm trying to study." That single sentence already implies struggle, resistance, and uncertainty. In contrast, Japanese habit systems are built around becoming a certain type of person, not chasing motivation. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like studying today?" the question becomes, "What does a fast learner do next?" This subtle shift changes everything. When learning is part of who you are, it stops depending on willpower. One powerful habit reflects this mindset: teaching what you learn. Explaining a concept to someone else, out loud, in writing, or even to yourself, forces clarity. Gaps appear immediately. Memory strengthens because the brain reorganizes information for communication, not storage. Another overlooked element is silence. Between two learning sessions, moments of quiet allow the brain to restructure information. This is when connections deepen. It's like a tree growing roots underground before anything appears above the surface. Progress is invisible, but real. Japanese routines respect these invisible phases: small pauses, small reflections, small repetitions. Over time, they create a learner who doesn't feel rushed, anxious, or overwhelmed. Learning stops being an effortful act and becomes a natural rhythm, something the mind returns to calmly, again and again. If there is one lesson hidden inside Japanese study habits, it is this: memory is not built by force, but by rhythm. Morning light and light movement wake the brain before learning begins. Active recall and spaced repetition turn forgetting into a tool instead of a failure. Small improvements, guided by kaizen, remove pressure and create consistency. Eating to 80% fullness keeps energy steady. Sleeping in alignment with natural cycles allows the brain to store what you worked so hard to learn, and a shift in identity from trying to study to being a fast learner makes these habits sustainable. You don't need to change everything tomorrow. Choose one small action. Step outside for 10 minutes before studying. Recall yesterday's lesson before learning something new. Turn off your phone earlier tonight. Small habits, repeated daily, shape a mind that remembers.